UFC 307 is in the books. I'm joined by Ray and Lewis. Welcome to Car Kick Sports, and we're going to break everything down. Alex Pereira, the man that's basically put the UFC on his back in 2024, again comes up with another impressive fourth round victory against Khalil Rountree Jr. Go to you, Lewis, straight away. What was your thoughts on the fight and Alex's progression throughout the rounds? Because last few fights we've seen him finish them quite early. This one, it felt like the first two rounds was more of a gauging process. Then 3 and 4, once he was able to gauge Khalil's, obviously his offense, and obviously the fact that he was tired, he went through the motions and got the finish. But what's your thoughts on the fight?
It's weird because I had a sort of weird suspicion, leading up to the fight. I just thought, because sometimes with these type of fights, you think it's a guarantee. When it's so much a guarantee, the sport just doesn't fail to surprise you. So you're like, there's something in the water, especially at Salt Lake City. There's been a few surprises there, but obviously in the past. But I thought Pereira was going to sort of walk away with it, but I was fairly surprised about how explosive he was to start with Rountree. But I mean, whereas obviously Pereira it seemed to start fairly slow, but obviously Rountree, I think he gave himself a good account of himself. But it was obviously, he came in, he'd done everything he had to do. But I just don't know how he stopped Pereira. I think he started slow, but as the fight progressed, sort of thing, through later rounds, I think he just sort of found his feet, and then he was just sort of like, right, now I can go for it. And he sort of found his time, and then I think Khalil was pretty tired as well, which was obviously a main sort of point of putting the pressure on as the rounds went on and on. But looking back now, it was like I expected Khalil to come out sort of all guns blazing, but I didn't think he would have as much success as he actually did. I knew he would sort of go for it, but I didn't expect him to be sort of quite successful as what he was, even though he never got the win. But I still think he definitely gave himself a good account of himself for going forward and stuff.
I think one thing that kind of surprised me was, I'm going to say this in not to be overly critical about Alex because it's super hard to do, but he was a bit lazy defensively because there was one time where he went for the high kick and then you could see Roundtree lands that overhand. So he was able to touch him. What was your feeling, Ray, on Roundtree's performance, but also just the fight overall?
What I liked about Roundtree is that I felt like he had the right balance of, I respect Alex, but I'm not going to give you too much respect where I'm not going to apply my game plan. And I feel like there's a lot of fighters that say that they go into a fight, oh yeah, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to strike with him, I'm going to apply my game plan. And then they go in there, they try to strike with him, and then they freeze because they just feel the presence of Pereira, where I feel like Roundtree was in there and he was fighting like a man of, I respect what you do, but even I was impressed that even when it didn't land, Roundtree was still in a mode of, as soon as you punch, I'm firing back. And obviously the fourth round, I think the damage was done, but rounds 1 to 3, I loved a lot of what I was seeing from Roundtree of, whenever Pereira would put in combos, Roundtree straight away, he just was going to hit him back some way, somehow. Sometimes it didn't land, sometimes it landed, but not cleanly. But when people are standing up with Pereira, that's what I want to see. I want to see that you actually believe in your striking. I want to see that you commit to what you want to do, and you don't respect him so much that you look down on what you can do. And it's similar to when these fighters that don't come from wrestling backgrounds, and then they'll be facing wrestlers that are like Olympic pedigree, or or at least like NCAA champion. And sometimes it's like, F your credentials, go in there, and obviously I'm not saying wrestle for wrestle, but if you can go in there and apply your grappling back, do it, because your credentials ain't gonna fight for you. You have to. But the size difference and the distance management from Pereira was very nice today. Well, tonight. However you want to define the time. Yeah. So the distance management was wonderful. And I feel like Khalil, listen, I've had enough. To all the uneducated, uncultured swines that want to complain, oh my gosh, all this grappling, this, that, and the third. If you want to see striking, go watch Glory. If you want to see striking with MMA gloves, go watch ONE FC. I want to tune into MMA. I'm sick and tired of these fighters going in and saying, let's put wages up for people, like, let's not go do takedowns. And It's MMA.
It
Use all
defeats the
facets.
purpose. It's the whole point of the sport.
Yeah, like literally use all facets of martial arts in there that you can. I'm not trying to see as much as I appreciate good striking, I appreciate a well-rounded game. Hence why someone like Mighty Mouse and GSP are some of my favorite fighters. Go in there and use a well-rounded game. It's been nice to see Pereira go up against, strikers, but it's enough, man. Can his opponent stop trying to do this thing where they're just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna strike Pereira. It's enough. Use all the tools you can, because after 1 or 2 days of social media praising you for standing, that third day is gonna hit you, and you're gonna realize I've got no belt, all because my ego said that I want to
strike with him. With Alex Pereira, look, he's fought 3 times. The year's not even done. I'm not saying he's fighting for a 4th because it's super unlikely. But we never know. We never know, though. We never know. But it's so unlikely.
Do not burn yourself out. Learn from
exactly. That's too much.
Burn yourself out.
All right. Just talk to us. We know what Dana White likes to say about the pound for pound #1, John Jones. There's memes about it now to a point where he's even acknowledged it. But realistically, are we looking at the pound for pound best in MMA in Alex Pereira in your guys' eyes? So Ray, you're shaking. Go ahead.
It's Islam. It's Islam.
Okay, I can give you that. What I'd say is, and it's unfortunate. Islam, I can take that. I think Alex Pereira's activity, though,
is
so good for 2024 as a champion as well. That I look at him as the baddest man on the planet right now.
Okay, so this is where marketing comes between actual competition, because if we're talking about actual merit and competition, Islam has faced the better opponents, whether it be Poirier, whether it be Charles Oliveira, whether it be who else is he for? Is it only Charles and I'm sure he's got one more fight in between. It's only Charles and
he's fought Volk, but
Volk was
Sarukian back in a few years ago now.
Sarukian, that one's coming up. But the point being is, if you're talking about talent-wise and well-rounded game, is Islam. If we are just talking about from a strictly entertainment marketing purpose, it's Pereira. It absolutely is him. Islam, if we're talking about MMA, okay, this is how I'm going to separate it. MMA pound for pound is Islam Makhachev. UFC pound for pound is Powhatan. Read between the lines with that. But yeah, go on.
I think that because when you think about it, is what you said is overall game, well-roundedness and stuff like that. Do you know, I actually think, see if it was Ankalaev Pereira just beat, I think it would be a sort of different conversation. And then people would be like, I think there's probably no doubt. Or it's maybe a bit tighter. But it's obviously so hard. And obviously the way Dana's going on just now, like as good as John Jones is, that's another story. Like, it is... I just didn't understand how we can put him anywhere near him.
It's marketing, man. A big MSG card for John Jones. He's just started. To be fair to Dana, this is the first time I've seen him promote like this in a long time.
Exactly. It should be like that.
He's got to.
Always pay-per-views. He should be at this, like promoting every single star.
Exactly.
But the thing is, he's got to know about it when Jones just hangs the gloves up, loss or win, no matter what happens. But going back to Pereira and stuff, I think at this moment in time, he's the big. Obviously, McGregor's always got to be #1 biggest star. I don't know if like globally, but to the hardcore fans right now, because he's so consistently fighting and he's knocking out everybody fighting. Pereira's just like, to the hardcore fans, he's maybe like the most exciting to watch anyway. Like that type of feel and that aura about him. Obviously, as you say, Islam, he's up there as well because his style and he's so well rounded. And even like when he was fighting Dustin, obviously the worry about takedown for Dustin, he wasn't able to maybe let his hands go as much as what he'd like, but Islam was still matching him in the striking, which is crazy if you think about obviously how well-rounded he is. And I think that's the only thing that people are sort of second guessing with Pereira, because obviously we've seen it slightly with the Blachowicz fight and the Adesanya first fight as well. They sort of controlled him a little bit in the grappling, but he has sort of progressed a bit, and it's been a while since he started since those fights now. We've not had a chance to sort of see his grappling, if it has improved, even though he's a bit older. But I think I think it was Joe Rogan or DC was talking about, because he started it so late, everybody has sort of, they're as good as they're going to get, and they're just going to polish their skills. Whereas Pereira's sort of learning daily base, like on the daily, and especially obviously training with Glover and stuff like that. But as I say, I think if he had fought Ankalaev, I think it'd been a different story. But you got to see a different side of him in this fight, because he was under a lot of pressure and he took some big shots and he still managed it. And then he just in the fourth round, it was like he just came out like the Terminator. It was like, I'm going out for blood. I'm going to finish this now. And that aggressive type of Pereira, even though it leaves himself a bit open, which it does seem to do, but when he's on fire like that, it's hard for anybody, especially striking with him anyway. I don't know if anybody can know it light heavyweight anyways.
Do you know what I loved? Like, even though he was striking, like I said, he left himself open, or he can do. His head movement throughout, there's a sequence where he's just letting go of shots, and his head movement is sensational. And yeah, like you said, like because he started so late, he's still growing, but he's the best for me right now, alongside Islam. I want to just quickly wrap up on this, and then we'll talk about the card. For me, one thing I love, that stare down that he does, that screams aura. As weird as it's aura. Like, you could just look at it. But you said about Ankalaev, he's fighting at UFC 308, expecting him to win. The only thing I will say is to then schedule that fight, considering how active Alex Pereira has been, I think would be quite difficult, because then you have Ramadan coming in March.
Oh yeah, right enough.
And I don't know when you would be able to realistically schedule that.
So let's say get a month off. So let's say October,
the only time I would say February. February is the only date.
Yeah,
you can
I'm even thinking March. So you've got enough time. If he wins, he's got enough time to rest. So what? You got November to just like do nothing, let your body heal. Then you got November to December to just train normal, not training camp. Then from January, you can do a training camp. Maybe fight late February if there's a card, or March.
March is Ramadan.
But it depends.
Right at the start. Right at the start.
So February, I think.
February is the date you can do
if
it.
If he's won a title shot, and Dana, because Dana will put him on the spot and say, "This is the date." If not, you maybe still be next, but we're going to have to bring someone else in, and then you know what that can happen. Then that's assuming he does get past Rakic, but
and here's the thing as well. Depending on how Jones and Stipe ends and how quick Aspinall gets a title shot, they will make Poatan first Aspinall.
I think that's what's going to happen. I think Jones and Stipe will both retire regardless of the outcome. And then Dana will be like, right, I need a big headliner. Because if he gets beat, he can go back down to like heavyweight and defend his belt.
Oh, rest assured, Aspinall beats him.
Yeah, 100%.
Don't get me wrong. I love the payday. I hope they both get paid for it. Rest assured, Aspinall, because Aspinall, I liked he said in an interview, he goes, if you go against Poatan, and he just said, I'm going for a takedown in 30 seconds.
Respectfully. But yeah, I just want to touch on the rest of the card. Got to go for the core main event. Raquel Pennington and Juliana Pena. I'm just going to summarize this. The best of women's MMA, or the women's MMA that we knew for a while, where there were superstars and stars, and the excitement of it, for some reason, it just seems like at this present moment, when it comes to women's MMA, there's just not enough quality for people to be properly interested in it. No. And then you look at this decision, I'm sorry, I don't know how any judge gave 4th and 5th to Juliana Pena personally. Just talk to me about, let's say, the state of women's MMA, and just quickly gloss over this fight.
I think overall with women's MMA, obviously the smaller weight divisions, they're sort of lacking the star power in that as well. I think because obviously Wei Lee, she's not been sort of as active, and then you've got Joanna, she's retired, and then obviously in these weight classes, it's sort of been Shevchenko and Grasov for the last 2 years basically, whereas it was always Amanda Nunes destroying everyone, except for the one sort of Pena fight, and that sort of gave a bit more excitement a wee bit. But then obviously the second fight, she came back, she just put her in her place pretty much. So to the point, it's not quite got that same excitement. So because I think if Pena was to have been a bit more competitive with Nunes in the second fight, people would maybe be a wee bit more excited, like for a Kayla Harrison sort of fight. but they've not got the same sort of attitude and aura, and you're not expecting a finish like with most of these girls at the moment. Obviously, hopefully, it sort of thing is up in it. I'm just praying from the smaller weight classes, Joanna to come back. So there's talks of doing like a BMF, a women's BMF, something like that. But in terms of like bantamweight, it's just
there is no women's BMF.
It's major lacking. It's completely.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough fighters there to start with to have enough sort of star power as it is anyway. And then obviously because the talent's not quite the same, because there's not quite as many of them to choose from. But it's one of the ones. It's just like what you meant to do. Like I don't think Dana would ever get rid of them now. No, this day and age, you'd get too much flack. But I think he really needs to start looking elsewhere and see where maybe other talent is. It's maybe a bit more brash and bold. That's a bit more sort of exciting fighting styles, especially for that division, because it's, as you say, the whole sort of women's division on all the divisions, they're sort of a bit lackluster at the moment compared to where it was maybe 3-4 years ago.
Wait,
what about you, Ray?
When is Zhang Weili fighting next?
I can't even know that. Well, that tells you everything you need to know. We can't actually remember.
Oh, I was gonna say, to answer the question, yeah, is in a very dire state. Funnily enough, I think I said in the last review show when we were talking about Sean versus Marab, me and Jermaine were just like, Pena needs to save the bantamweight division from Pennington. We just need to be saved by both of them. So Shevchenko, I'm begging you,
move up.
I'm begging you, Shevchenko, move up and take these belts. I don't even know if I want to say Kayla Harrison with the belts, and especially with how weight drained she looked. I get from her part because she's done everything outside of the UFC, so she'd want to fight in a premier promotion. But I just don't feel like this is healthy. Every single time she's fought, it's been that one. She's weighed in at 136. That one extra pound, I don't know.
Maybe too much.
Yeah, and I don't want her to ever take a loss, and then it's a legitimate excuse to say she shouldn't even be fighting in that weight class. So Kayla Harrison aside, I don't think Amanda Nunes will get drawn out to, one more fight. Maybe unless Harrison wins in impressive fashion, then Nunes might come out for a big paycheck. But other than that, Shevchenko, please save us. I remember Jermaine mentioning before he would love to see a division against division with Zhang Weili versus Shevchenko. I think that would bring excitement to the women's division.
Definitely.
But other than that, they're really in a talent deficit at the moment. And we were talking pre-production in regards to Pena and Pennington. I don't blame them as much for not being skill-wise as advanced because they come from a prior generation. What's more worrying for me is the next gen of women fighters haven't shown to,
come through the ranks yet.
Yeah, to come through the ranks. Also, like the same way, I'm trying to think what division. Maybe even like bantamweight with morale coming through. You see, like Aljamain was the prior generation. Aljamain got taken over by Sean O'Malley. Then Sean got taken over by the next up and coming.
There's a constant flow.
Yeah, there's a constant evolution. And I feel like the women's division, and I was happy for Pennington, but before when she won the belt, but I was just like, there should be some young, hungry lioness, no pun intended, that should have taken over from both Pennington and Pena, and there doesn't seem to be anyone.
No.
And if that's the case, for me, this is Shevchenko's best time to move up, get this belt now before, because she's also getting older in age. Zhang Weili's getting older in age. I don't know what's going to need to happen to rejuvenate the women's division, but it's not looking the greatest right now. But I would like to say congratulations to Pena, but it wasn't a well-deserved victory. So I don't even... The whole event, the judges were having a mare, but let's carry on.
Just quickly before we wrap up, you talked about bantamweight, and obviously just got to touch on Jose Aldo. Respect everything he's done. To be fair to him, he actually still looks like he's got something to give.
He's always competitive.
But is there any real need for him to be competitive at his age? Just call it a day again and just enjoy your life now at this point. Like, what is there realistically for him to do at the age that he is? Just quickly get your thoughts on him.
I guess it depends on the money situation. I don't know. If he's doing it for money, then listen, man, go get paid. If it's not for money and just for like competitive spirit, as harsh as it sounds, put him in there with a hungry lion to just put him out of his misery. Sometimes
you want him killed.
No,
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
no. Normally I don't, but there comes a certain point where you need someone to go in there and just take someone clean out.
Make you realise that you're not that guy anymore.
Yeah, and I feel like Jose, because he keeps on being competitive with some of these guys, it's almost like he feels like I can still carry on going. Now, to be fair to him, it's not like he's not going outside like BJ Penn where you're just getting battered every fight. But
Yeah.
my thing is it all depends on the reasoning. If Jose is just fighting to fight and he enjoys it, similar to Jim Miller, then carry on. If there is a motive to be champion or the best, I don't want to see him ruin his legacy by losing to fighters that shouldn't be having Jose on their resume. That's my only thing. But if he's in the Jim Miller phase where he just enjoys fighting, then give him some nice other veterans to face. Then
exactly.
Yeah.
Dominic Cruz. That's the one. That's the only one I'm sort of interested in sort of seeing now.
Yeah, that's a very good fight.
Or Cody Garbrandt. I wouldn't mind that. But I can see how they'll get the win there.
Do you know what? This is what I will say. From a marketing standpoint, the time whenever they want to go to Brazil, you can have a horrible card, put on Jose Aldo, and the tickets will sell just across the board, realistically, because of the legend status that he is. Listen, if they brought Jose Aldo to England, I promise you, I'm going to find a way to still spend the money and watch him. I don't know what it is. I get it. I knew you were going to shake your head, but the legend side of things.
I hear it. I grew up on WEC. I remember watching Jose in WEC when he was doing flying double knees to Cub Swanson within 7 seconds. But Jose, there's right. Like I said, I need to find out what is Jose's motivation. I'd like to know his motivation. If he's in denial like Tony Ferguson, they need to put him in there with someone young to put him out of his misery. If he's there on a Jim Miller, like I just want to fight because I love it and you're still healthy and you're still competing, then fair enough. For me, it's all about his motive. If his motive's good, then let him carry on. If his motives isn't the greatest, put him in with a young, hungry lion to put his lights out. But on a side note, I know we're just about to end in a bit. Yep. We need to have a real conversation on these quality of UFC pay-per-view cards, but that's another day.
I know where you're going with that, but we'll definitely do that, guys. We're going to wrap up today's episode. Lewis, Ray, appreciate you guys for obviously jumping on. The nights are very difficult for us, but at least the next event we've got normal timing. So
exactly,
Abu Dhabi, thank you for paying Dana and not forcing him to switch the time. Yeah, but yeah, guys, like, share, subscribe. Until next time, peace.